Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
And we are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Mob Psycho, Season 1, Episode 12. I believe this is the last episode of the first season. I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm sad, I'm worried. Reigen got sliced in his back, and it seemed like we could see the slice on the concrete as well, which leads me to believe it actually hit him.
It was a massive cliffhanger to end last episode on, and I'm almost surprised that that wasn't the ending of this season and that we have another episode now. And so that makes me wonder, is it going to be completely outside of chronological order of what we just got? And maybe it's more prequel, prelude type content, or if we're going to find out what happened to Reigen right away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also really worried about
I have the fleeting hope that it's a plastic sword, right? Even though it's been, honed down.
Right.
I have that hope.
It was a toy sword.
Yeah.
And, we talked about, it had, he had been building it with this energy over this time period, and maybe it only attacks or really actually hurts against other psychics, other espers. And maybe because Reigen is the most powerful esper of all time, it won't harm him actually.
I also, if he actually got hurt or potentially killed, Mob has put back together a church. Could he do that for a person? I don't want to believe Reigen would die here. I just don't want to believe that.
I have wondered if healing abilities is a possibility.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that people are able to do, especially with some of the scars that we've met.
Yeah.
What if there is healing that could be involved? Honestly, I would be terrified to give someone stitches if they got cut. So if I could use my psychic powers to not have to directly touch and be able to stitch someone back up, that would be awesome.
Like Sakurai can do it with a sword, so why wouldn't you be able to do it with a needle and thread?
So maybe he just needs to be stitched up and he's going to be okay. Maybe he doesn't even need stitches. It was a flesh wound. It wasn't even that deep,
Other than my fear for Reigen, I have, I think, an even greater fear for Mob. Because it's such a dilemma that he's in, whether he should follow the truth that Reigen taught him or listen to Teru and Ritsu with the reality of, well, what are you supposed to do? Just let yourself die? What are the options here now that this has happened to? I'm scared. If he died here, right, and Mob went all murderous intent, that's not gonna leave honor in Reigen's message and name. But I don't know. I'm anxious.
It was so emotionally heightened last episode to the point where, I think both of us were probably tearing up just even before that ending that we got. Just about how kind of torn Mob was. We got an example. We got the past of him meeting Reigen and how that relationship came to be, and we got him being basically torn back and forth, his arms being pulled in two different directions. One side's Ritsu and Teru, and the other side's Reigen. And Ritsu might be his brother, and Teru might be his best friend, let's say.
Brother.
But Reigen is something. Reigen almost is a savior, if you will, for Mob. It's a beacon.
Somebody like Mob, I'm not even going to say Mob, somebody like Mob could have easily turned very bad if they didn't have somebody like Reigen in their life early on. Reigen's special, and I'm hoping that everything is sunshine and rainbows and works out. This is one of my favorite shows, so yeah.
I really care for Mob.
Me too.
I want to protect him.
It's not even just I want him to physically be safe. I don't want him to have to go through. I want to
protect him mentally.
Ever since episode 5, when Mob went unconscious and exploded into question marks, and then it was like then it was the narration of like Mob realized that he couldn't keep the promise that he made to himself of not using his psychic powers like in that way. Like I was like, oh my god, like it really like hit me in the heart, and like I don't want to see him have to go through any of that anguish.
If he was at murderous intent right at the end of that episode and was snapped out of it, and then what we saw at that very ending, where's he at?
Yeah, exactly.
Where is he at?
It could go either way.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Or not.
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's leading us to believe that is the case.
I think that the show has us right where it wants us because it's very good at subverting our expectations and trying to read into it.
We're in the palm of its hand.
One thing that like gets me every time they use it, and for some reason fails to take me out of it, even though I've like commented on it before, is the anxiety-inducing background bed spring.
I went like this.
It works so well to make me feel so uneasy, and like I don't even realize it's happening until after the fact that it happened. Like I'm so
That's
on
the
edge.
Importance of sound effects and soundtracks.
Yeah. What's our percentage of belief that it's Tsubomi?
Pretty high. I mean,
yeah?
It's season 1 and she's in the intro a lot, but all we've like gotten of her is these like initial things of her. Like she's been in it less than the other characters that are highlighted in the intro opening. Also, I just think it would be really freaking crazy and interesting for Mob to have to deal with the person he has a crush on.
Yeah.
That turned away from him because of his psychic powers being this person.
Okay. Plastic sword. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay.
Is he gonna break it?
Oh! Can he see it?
What is happening?
Yes!
He's in a league of his own. Is it just because he's a regular person?
He can see it. No shot. Temporarily tossed over to Reigen.
He had successfully run away.
Do you hear this music? Oh! Oh!
1,000.
It's Mob's aura around him.
I would have never in a billion years guessed this.
That's kind of cool. But if it's Mob's power, I'm not too worried. His animation, dude.
Oh my god, we're getting a reveal. Playing with toy swords. Air gun? There's no bullets. Ooh.
It won't work on him.
So this is how powerful Mob could be, basically. It's a costume, so he looks like a super villain.
He's so right. Terror's gonna be like, this is where he got it from. He brought him to his knees with his inspirational words. Yeah.
So cute. Oh, that is not
Tsubomi.
I thought it was a.
I thought it was
a little girl too.
His scars went away, look. Uh-oh.
Oh my god, not a good time. He's also out.
Who do you have?
This is really creepy. Oh, no
we haven't seen him in a while. Going backward. Why?
Because he didn't fight? Seems like they were already low on the totem pole.
Interesting. He just vanished. Dimple. Just could be Dimple.
No way! Please be Dimple.
I hope it's Dimple.
Marshmallow-chan Dimple. You had a great entrance, though.
Honestly. Are they going to be part of the team?
I was going to say, are you going to change sides? Like,
nah, because it's not in their interest to go out and fight Claw.
Right. This makes me really happy.
The only other time we saw them walk to school was when Ritsu had it in his best interest. Good.
僕も行きます。高生徒の嫌われ者になりますよ。くだらないことをしてしまった自分が悪いのさ。やっぱりリコーダー仕込んだのお前らか。つが知ってたし、今さらどうでもいいけどよ。どういうことですか?
He has his own family.
本当に犯人かどうかなんて関係ねえんだ。それに乗じて俺を追い出す空気があった。問題はそこだ。ほど嫌われてたってことに気づいたぜ。あと自分の心の脆さに。お前の兄貴が心配してたぜ。切れた俺に制裁食らうんじゃ。あんの弟ってことで今回は目をつぶってやる。どうした誰がねこら。あの時の白 T ポイズンのようにな。行くかい。
Mob?
Yep.
なのかい？戻ろうとしてるようだけど。はい、僕からすれば誰よりも強いんです。でも倒れてるよ。懲りずに俺らを集めて超能力を諦めてないんだな。ちょっと頼まれたんだ。
Who?
はじめまして。君たちがここの研究隊。またかっこいい人。なるほど。まだ力は微力だが。
Are you gonna train them?
Oh!
先日のかな。君らも僕と一緒に。
Oh my god, please!
の自己防衛、そして反撃のために。サポートは任せてくれ。
Please.
Can't have that.
Yes. Training arc.
I'm so happy. Oh.
Thank God. It's the dynamic I always needed.
お前モブの使い方なんだろ。上級悪霊だっつの。カリアぜ、ふぬけかよ。かっこ悪いことしたのかな。何か間違えたんだろうか。もうまたなの。
I want Ritsu to do it and for the parents to see.
兄さん、貸して。
何
この子たち。はい、兄さん。あと、リツ。まあいいか。来て幹部は全滅。支部長の石黒さんも大したことのせいに至っては敵にまんまと怪獣されちまった。視察の経過報告を聞いているんだが、全然世界一じゃねえぞ。遊んでないで早く日本に来い、バカ親父。
Father.
めんどくせえ視察させやがって。
調味師にて土の子の発見情報が相次いでいます。
Look at how it's drawn.
Comic dots.
It's like a... what?
Like a little bit?
Yeah.
I like that he can see things now.
What is this? Look at how many he has. Simple. Okay, that was Mob Psycho Season 1, Episode 12. They ended that in such a wholesome Mob Psycho fashion.
Mm-hmm. It felt accurate to the show.
It really did. And I am curious where they're to go next. Obviously, like, we have the whole, like, leaning towards Sho and his father and the organization of Claw itself, but for how that's going to come to fruition and come to be is going to be interesting to see.
I'm still curious about the level of severity that the show is willing to reach, because we did have the possibility at the beginning of this episode of Reigen getting very, very hurt.
Yeah.
You know, and is the show always going to be that sort of reset? You know, where there's not actually high stakes in reality, like, because Mob is so powerful. You know, it makes me wonder. Like, I mean, obviously we're learning that this 7th division was already low enough on the totem pole that this kid was sent, this son was sent just to inspect and see if there was anyone worth bringing with him.
Yeah.
So yes, that leads me to believe that there are going to be stronger foes in the future. But I was really wondering the stakes that the show was willing to take in terms of when we saw Reigen and the sword. And the slash on the back. I was like, okay, this is kind of the marker of what the stakes are in this universe and how dark it's willing to go in terms of death or pain or, like, physical hurt.
If I had to, like, hedge my bets on going into this episode, I didn't think they'd kill off one of the main characters in the last episode of a season. Because it has to wrap up somehow. And I typically don't see shows that end the season on, like, that big of a cliffhanger. No,
it needs to be enough where it's, like, a nice wrap up, but you're still wanting to see what comes next.
I think it's an interesting point in, like, how, like, where this show is going to scale on, like, I don't know what
I don't even know how to phrase it.
Yeah, it's like it on, like, not, or consequence maybe. Like, we had one of the brothers, what's his name?
The twins.
Yeah, one of the twins who had.
But then he survived. You know.
I'm pretty sure it was Kaito, but and then he survived. Yeah, and even after seeing, like, the fake bloodied corpse, right, or, like, the vision of that. So
they keep not actually having, like, mortal wounds, you know, like lethal wounds, or the worry that this injury might be so bad that you might not make it. There's a lot of, like, mental suffering and emotional suffering that the stakes of that are incredibly high. But in terms of, like, your physical body and the harm that comes to it, it seems like that possibly will stay the same.
Yeah. I think so, probably. I mean, like,
none of the villains actually, like, died, right?
No.
Well, we don't know necessarily about the old man.
Or the flame guy.
Right.
That being said, though, it wouldn't be the same kind of, like, stakes that I'm trying to convey. Like, not that I don't think it needs it. I think the way that the show is, like, has been set up to be is very comedic, of course, and then when it wants to make you feel a certain way, it definitely will, and it wants to seemingly do that in a non-traditional sense of this main character is going to get into a harmful position and die and grief, or, like, revenge. Like, it's more, like, subtle but specific than that.
I appreciate that the focus is on internal pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's always, like, a side effect that you see slightly in terms of, like, in shows with a lot of action and a lot of physical violence. There is a lot also of emotional, traumatic events, mental health issues, you know, that happens. That's not, like, the main thing that they use to have the viewer feel anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the strength of Mob Psycho, is the way that it handles and makes you feel the emotional pain and suffering and anxieties and uncomfortable a lot of the time of specifically Mob.
Well, I think it makes me feel vulnerable because if they ever decided to go even further, I think it would like end me. Like,
I think I would be. I know I said at the beginning that I wonder how far they'd go in terms of life or death, but I would be completely wrecked, I think,
well,
if they actually brought that sort of... I mean, think about when the twin... we thought the twin died. Like, that was... I felt like I was totally taken, like, aback by that. I did not expect it. It was shocking. It was horrifying. I was like, holy shit, Mob Psycho, what are you doing?
I think that the reason I wonder if it's going to get into that territory is because I'm, like, a little, like, afraid and reluctant. Because, like, if they did it, I don't know how they do it. If they did it in a lot of other shows that I watched, it'd be... I think you're dead, mad sadness. But I'd be scared to know how they would, whether it's in like a more of like a detailed, crazy way to go about making me feel a certain thing, or like a short, direct way that's more of like their style. Like however they choose to do it, I'd be afraid of how it would make me feel, and like because the show makes me feel.
I like that you said mad or sad. You were like, death, mad, or sad. Mm-hmm. And why I think that's great to use in comparison to the show is when Mob reaches 100, there's an emotion involved that takes over. And it is never so broad.
It's not like
mad.
It's not like one-dimensional or vague. It's like
pretty specific.
Yeah, and you understand the intent behind that emotion and why he's feeling that.
It's complex.
It's complex, yeah. I think that an interesting route that I assume the show is going to take is that of Sho and Ritsu, because when Sho is like, he didn't find anybody useful inside the organization.
But that's who he looked at. He didn't look at Mob.
Yeah, because he had a fight with Ritsu that we didn't see. We don't.
It's like he might see potential in Ritsu, possibly Ritsu getting stronger.
I don't know if it's about Ritsu getting stronger. I think it would be more about his potential to use powers in a specific way. Like his disappointment in Mob this episode, in my opinion, could have come from his lack of physical initiative and like lack of caring about other people and not wanting to fight. I think that Ritsu, we've been shown...
Ritsu would have fought there. I mean, Ritsu was yelling for Mob to do it, so Ritsu definitely... If Ritsu had the power, he would not have disappointed Sho in that way.
Yeah, and that's scary because I don't want them to make me, like be upset on Ritsu's behalf any longer. Like, I don't want to feel like... He, like, early on in this series, like, episode, 6 or 7, I was, freaking out because Ritsu was being, a bad guy in those episodes, and I don't want that to go back to happening.
I like that there's a possibility to get stronger and enhance your psychic powers, possibly without having to use the experimentation that Claw does.
Yeah.
Obviously with Teru being like, we're going to nurture your abilities so that you can protect yourself. I don't think he would necessarily offer that or say they should do this if it wasn't necessarily possible for them to at least be able to protect themselves a little bit better. I'm not sure. Is it a way for him to keep close to them so that he can protect them if Claw comes back for these kids? Or is it actually possible that they could nurture their abilities?
Well, it's going to be really interesting going forward because we're still in a pretty similar dilemma as we were when we started this episode. Through Mob's vision, it seemed like both of the options were equal because of the specific situation that we were in, whether that being fight or run away. going forward into next season, the option wasn't self-defense there. He wasn't like, oh, if it's self-defense, it's right. It seems to be it's gonna come to that point again next season.
Totally. It really is. I mean, it seems like at this point, every character other than Reigen and Mob is bracing themselves.
Yeah.
Is like, Claw is out there and we just wiped out one of their divisions. Of course they're going to be back in our lives somehow. They're not just going to leave us alone.
Unfortunately, because I don't know the right answer, but I love the side that I love the side that Mob and Reigen are on, that could open themselves up to somebody that they are close to getting seriously injured if they don't fight back or act in self-defense.
It worked in their favor it worked in their favor because of the coincidence that Mob's power transferred to Reigen.
I loved, like, the explanation.
Which was great, and I love that Reigen knew what happened.
Yeah.
I liked the awareness and that the characters were completely aware of what was happening. I like that Reigen can see spirits now, and he can have a dynamic with Dimple, because I think those two characters are going to have a really, funny dynamic.
Is that the way that they go about it next season? In essence, he'd successfully run away when Mob's not the one fighting and gives that power to other people that are deemed acceptable to use. I mean,
this is an interesting development that Mob can transfer his powers. I mean, what if he doesn't want to? I mean, that's the thing. He's never going to transfer it to someone willingly, knowing that they will fight if they have his powers.
Yeah.
He'd rather be the one that fights, right? Like, if Ritsu was like, give me your power, I'll fight back and protect you. He'd be like, no, I'm going to protect you. You're my brother.
Yeah.
I don't think he would willingly ever transfer it again.
Seeing Reigen use psychic powers and like
Did
having
it
a
make
shield.
your life? Was that like everything to you?
It didn't feel real. It felt like I was watching a fanfic.
I didn't know if I was
insane.
I didn't know if they were trying to say, like, because he's human, psychic powers don't work against him, or what, or he's actually so strong that that's why we've always doubted him.
Sakurai was terribly bullied in an orphanage, and he was cursed into this world, and Reigen could completely understand because he didn't have lunch one day. How horrific. I love it. Reigen's great. I'm
not surprised that a lot of the psychics that we're meeting that have turned to the dark side had... I mean, we did get a little bit of a glimpse when we first met Mob that obviously all we got, which it was not severe at all, was his parents with the spoon at the table.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, you need to break that habit of yours kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is way softer and not as severe and horrible as basically being disowned and unwanted by your family because of these abilities. But I remember feeling at the beginning like, oh my god, Mob's parents either don't like that he's psychic but really it just seems like they're just oblivious to the fact that he's actually anything special.
Yeah. I do wonder if like the nuances of like how it works, because we did see the physical slash in the physical floor from the psychic attack. So it obviously can affect and hurt physical things, but it didn't Reigen. So is that because when he got sliced in the back, did he already have Mob's power? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it was once he slapped his cheeks, that when
was
it was
a transfer.
transferred.
Okay, cool. That's what the visuals hinted at to me, but I wasn't 100%. Do you think that we're gonna have Sho like inevitably be like an ultimate villain or like the next big villain? Slash, do you think Sho's father?
I was about to say, I think they're definitely leaning towards the father of Sho being the kind of ultimate villain. But I definitely think that Sho is going to be a very reoccurring character.
Yeah.
I don't think Sho is just going to go away as quick as the 7th Division leaders did and the Scars, you know. I think Sho's in it for the long haul kind of thing, and I'm excited about that. His essence, his voice reminded me of Killua from Hunter x Hunter.
Interesting. I can see that.
And so I was like, I was really liking his character because, I mean, Killua's like my favorite from Hunter x Hunter. But I think I like him more because he's more focused on Ritsu. I think that Ritsu being a bigger character in the story than I had initially, when I started the show, thought he was going to be, just makes me love the show even more than if it was just solely like Mob's world, you know?
Yeah.
But having that brother relationship and friendship and the ups and downs of family, but also competition within siblings and family, but also like that love that's there, that protection from older brother to younger brother. I think it's so great. Obviously Teru's funny to add in there because I'm sure he wants to be the third brother.
There's so many more characters in this story that like I realize sometimes. Like obviously Tsubomi, since episode like 1, we have Kurata, the president of like the Supernatural Club, and then like Misato, I think, which is the like reporter. And like I forget that we were introduced to so many of these characters and elements that they can use going forward.
Right. I actually it's like I like Onigawara.
Onigawara is so good.
And I don't know if anyone has watched Kaguya-sama Love is War, but what happened to Onigawara reminds me of something that happened to a character in Kaguya-sama Love is War, season 2.
Yeah.
And I think that made me like Onigawara even more because it was really freaking painful what happened to him. That's a great example of how this show makes you uncomfortable and uneasy. And it almost like makes sure that you're watching with an open heart and open mind, and your emotions are ready to like flow in whatever direction at any point in time.
Yeah.
You have to watch it like that. And Onigawara was a great example of that.
I think like his whole perspective, all because of the nurturing of the body improvement club, was really nice to see though. Like people didn't care whether I was actually the culprit or not.
Right.
Like they were just kind of jumping on the first thing they could in regards to him, and his introspection to realize that was really cool. And
I think it leans into human nature.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that brings people together the most is a common enemy or a common thing to pile on or hate or gossip about. Like, especially in the age group that we're talking about. Like that is a big thing that brings people together. And Tsubomi's not the person in the gas mask.
There's still a chance.
There's still a chance that old man was going to rip off the old man mask and it was going to be Tsubomi.
Or a swap out happened behind the scenes. No,
I genuinely thought that it was going to be Tsubomi.
But I felt like they meta told us that they tried to make us think that by being like, I thought it was a girl or something.
It's like, it's like the mangaka knew that people might think it was Tsubomi, so they were like laughing at us a little bit.
It's interesting. I don't remember her other than in flashbacks from the interactions we've had so far, like realizing Mob's looking at her, and like I almost thought they were going to talk for a second here.
I mean, we don't technically even know what their current relationship is like. All we know is that they were friends as kids at some point, and then she got kind of bored with him, and that doesn't mean that they're at the point where they wouldn't necessarily speak to each other if they came up upon each other in the hallway. So I'm wondering if, because we got that towards the end of the episode, if we're maybe gonna have more of her soon. I hope, because I really thought that she was the one in the gas mask, and I thought she was gonna be more important to the story. But I also feel like if there's gonna be love, he has 3 girls. He has Kurata, he's going on sightseeing dates with, and then he has the journalist girl,
Misato,
and then he has Tsubomi.
Yeah, he is popular.
I'm sure he could make the one girl, one of the psychic girls. No, she would probably pick Ritsu, if I'm being honest with myself.
I have 3 more things. I love that Reigen's words, like, obviously it helped to be paired with the power to back those words up, but his words were enough to change these people, to snap these people out of the way that they were living their lives.
I mean, it's great because we got the previous example of him doing it to the, not the echelon, but the lower.
And he didn't have powers then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was able to completely convince them, why are you beating up children? You guys are crazy.
So I love that. The whole theme of Teru coming back, right? Like, it was very similar to what was taught to Teru by Mob in episode 5, was the same overall, I thought, lesson to these two people, Sakurai included. And I love that Teru, like, acknowledges that Reigen's cool, and, like, that's his whole, like, shtick, and I just love that Teru was there for this.
I like that they got both Ritsu and Teru kind of gained a respect for Reigen, but I think they now left with a better understanding of Mob.
Me too.
Which is really great.
And last but not least, I'm wondering if the next opening is going to be...
It's not my middle finger, I checked.
But I wonder if the next opening is going to be the same opening. Like, because Mob Psycho 100, it's counting up to 100. My big prediction is that next opening is going to be counting down from 100.
Ooh. I just want a new one because of how fun it is. Yeah. It's so creative, the opening. Is. I mean, there's like broccoli and mushrooms and... I'm
excited. I'm just really... If it's the same song, it's going to be different visuals, I think. But I'm curious about the song choice.
And I really hope that Teru keeps his short hair going into the next season.
That makes one of us. All right, you good? Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.